Hello and welcome to Planet Waves TV for the, what day is it? 26th of November, 2025. I'm Eric Francis Compolino, your friendly neighborhood astrologer and the host of Planet Waves FM and the author of the Planet Waves horoscope. And something I'll mention in a bit, which is the 2026 annual edition of Planet Waves. Thank you for joining me. This is going to be our Thanksgiving weekend Planet Waves work product. I am keeping my writing load as low as possible in service of finishing what will be a most magnificent annual edition called Inner Light, Inner Peace. Today, I want to first thank you for being part of Planet Waves in any way, for devoting your attention and sending me your emails thanking me for what we do here at Planet Waves, and to my subscribers and my customers. So this is a symbiotic relationship. I can do as much as I can do for you because you do as much as you do for Planet Waves. So again, thank you. Rather than give the teaching, the classroom presentation on, did the first Thanksgiving happen, and were John Smith and Pocahontas and all, and did they really serve turkey and all that? I'm going to talk about something a little more modern, which is why I think that Thanksgiving is such a haunted and fraught holiday. That said, I think that it is a wonderful idea to have a day of gratitude. That's a wonderful concept for a holiday. All of our other holidays are they're about dead veterans. That's a drag. Memorial Day, that's a drag. Labor Day, thanks a lot. July 4th and so forth, President's Day, and all this stuff. They're about people and generally about abstractions, right? People, by which I mean kind of hero figures and abstractions. But gratitude is not an abstract concept, and it is not easy for a lot of people to say thank you. I've noticed this. Some people, it comes very naturally to them. Some are habituated to say thank you. Some are habituated to say thank you, and they really mean it when they say it. And so forth. But it's a cool concept for a holiday, in my opinion. So not that matters very much, but I'm not here to disparage Thanksgiving. I'm here to tell you what I think is haunting it. And this is, I am speculating somewhat, but I'm going to present you with some historical grounding. I think the modern concept of Thanksgiving comes out of the Roosevelt administration. I believe he moved the day of Thanksgiving, and that kind of rechristens it as a special thing. And Roosevelt was an interesting president, more controversial than we like to admit. His image was largely built up by the Kennedys. That's a better conversation to have. And I think I actually had this conversation with our Planet Waves in-house historian, Jeffrey Strahl, in Berserkly. The image we have of Roosevelt is a kind of a fabrication. I mean, he was the guy who gave the world the atomic bomb, for example, and we don't think of him that way. We think of him as this comely old gentleman who was so loving and supportive during the Great Depression, and ultimately could not get the United States out of the Great Depression, could only do so by getting the United States into World War II. And that began an economy that became the economy that we have today, which is one based on military spending, which includes technology, and debt. That's what we get after World War II. That's the economy that we have was built on this. And the Great Depression was really an unbelievably difficult time everywhere in cities and in the rural areas, and for urbanites and for agrarian people, and it was a massive taking from people. A huge one of that I know of two huge farm consolidations in American history. I'm learning about one in the 1980s that I did not know about. But what I know, most of what I know about the Great Depression from being a scholar of The Grapes of Wrath by John Steinbeck and other writing by Steinbeck. But that is one of the most important documents of the Great Depression and what happened and how so many families were in what we now today call flyover states were turned into migrants and went to California to pick fruit and ultimately only found their way out of that trap by getting involved in war-related industries. And this American dream kind of was born or had a revival in the years after World War II. All of it funded by credit and debt and consumerism. Rather incredibly. I'm reading a book now called The Psychology of Money, which gives us a kind of a succinct how we got here explanation. And that this is just adding to my understanding. Anyway, let me get to the point. So Roosevelt in early 1941 declares that there are 4 freedoms. This isn't the State of the Union address. I don't think it was called the State of the Union address, but it was the constitutionally mandated. The president comes before a joint session of Congress and tells them about the State of the Union. And that was on 1/6/41. The country is still in the depth of the Great Depression with no apparent way out. It is still 11 months, basically, before the bombing of Pearl Harbor gets the United States into a multi-front war. Multi-front meaning the Japanese front, the African front, the European front, and there were others. He enumerates the 4 freedoms. And in March of 1943, this picture appears on the cover of the Saturday Evening Post. And this is our concept of Thanksgiving. And it is the Thanksgiving that maybe something like it happened somewhere, but we would then need to interview the people and find out what was really going on. The thing about this Thanksgiving is everyone is gleeful, and we have a proud patriarch and a proud matriarch holding a turkey that would probably have her lurch forward. That looks like at least a 25-pound turkey, plus the 5 pounds of bowl, and not to mention the stuffing. And it's amazing she's holding. She's a very, very strong woman. And she's not even being helped by Papa. Here's the artist Norman Rockwell. Now I'm gonna share Rockwell's chart in a minute. I've never read a biography of Rockwell. I don't think that he was an insincere person. That's my impression. Obviously, an incredibly talented painter. Really, I mean, this is like the last gasp of realist art before photography becomes a really popular medium. Photography has been around for a long time. That's another story. Color photography, 19th century. But anyway, here he is presenting a fantasy of this thing that it never actually happened. This scene never happened. These are people that he knew. He worked from photographs of them. So this is a painting of many photographs. There's the artist signing his work in the corner. That's Rockwell himself. And these were all basically close family friends of the Rockwells. And this is what everyone expects Thanksgiving to be like. Even if you don't know about this painting, even if you've never heard of the Saturday Evening Post, even if you don't know anything, in the collective consciousness of the United States is this image of what we're supposed to be doing tomorrow. And even even when their families are able to get the whole family together, there is just always so much going on in families, and this is during the Great Depression. Who are these people who are so well heeled and well groomed and all of that? The picture actually has a name, and not only does it have a name, it was published in March. It is not even Thanksgiving. This is not Thanksgiving. So it was published on March 6th, 1943. I've got the chart for it. The day of the Pisces new moon. So not only did it never happen, it came out in the spring and somehow became retrofitted to Thanksgiving. I don't know what the editors were thinking putting this up, the editors of the Saturday Evening Post. Some people wish they could go to a Beatles concert. Some people, wish they could have, been on the moon for the moon landing. Somebody like me, I want to be sitting around the table of the editorial board with the art director of the Saturday Evening Post, like in February. Think, whoa, why don't we just put somebody serving a turkey on the cover in March? Whatever. It's not Thanksgiving. I can't get over this. I just learned this. I've been digging into this the past couple of days. Now, this is one of the four freedoms, the freedom from want. The four freedoms enumerated by Roosevelt on 1641 were freedom of speech and expression. The second one was the freedom of worship. Well, thanks a lot. Those are covered in the First Amendment. They're not freedoms the government gives us. To the extent the Bill of Rights is evocative of any genius, it is that the amendments in the first 10 are constructed as prohibitions against the government's interference, not the granting of a right. In Germany, for example, the Marshall Plan, post-World War II constitution says the government grants the people the freedom to express themselves. As this, the government had the power to express that freedom. How is that? And not only that, there's an exception that says unless it offends someone. So, I covered this in Germany when I lived there in 1998 for 6 months with my beloved girlfriend Maria Hensler, covering the story of a guy who took nude photos in a church. This church probably had like one visitor every 3 days. So the Ewald Schott and his model, whose name I forget, and I've got a little booklet of these photos, were properly accounted for a week's worth of visitors in this church. And he made a little booklet, and the booklet got, like 5 years later, the booklet got out, and then suddenly the Gestapo had prosecuted Ewald for taking these photos by convicting him of Bestimmten von Unfug, gross insulting nonsense in the house of God. That's what you get from a constitution that grants you the right to do something, except if people are offended. Somebody's always going to be offended. The whole point of free speech is that someone somewhere is going to be offended. Is there any other purpose to grant the right of free speech? They don't grant you the right to scratch your head, because who fucking cares? All right. Then freedom of worship. I've printed that one. I mean, another masterpiece of propaganda. I suspect that Rockwell was sincere, but I still think that this is propaganda. And I would note that at the time that this came out, there were people serving time in internment camps for wanting to not violate their conscience by not serving in World War II, by not serving in that massacre. And in fact, the Pacific Radio Network, of which I am a station manager and program host, though I do not agree with most of the politics of most of the shows on the station. I am very connected to Pacifica Network's Quaker roots because one of the people who founded Pacifica Network was a Quaker in an internment camp during World War II who said, well, when we get out of here, we got to do something with our lives. And that meant creating KPFA Berkeley, which became the Pacifica Network. So freedom from want, at this point, they are, through the Depression, one of the things I learned from the Grapes of Wrath is they had plenty of food despite the Dust Bowl, but to keep the prices high, they're throwing it, they're burning it, they're slaughtering pigs and covering them with quicklime so that you couldn't eat the meat. So they're throwing potatoes in rivers and posting guards to make sure that people don't fish the potatoes out of rivers. And in fact, this painting came with an article, I forget the name of the writer, I just saw it for the first time today, that said, well, we have to use what we produce. I know exactly what they meant because I know the historical context. What they meant was we can't raise thousands of pigs and kill them and put them in a ditch. We can't raise 100 acres of potatoes and then that's a lot of potatoes and then and it's a small farm. 100 acres is a small farm, and then throw them in the river and post guards. We have to use what we produce. And so a lot of the starvation of the Great Depression was completely unnecessary. And to my knowledge, there was not a New Deal plan to distribute all of that food. The goal was still, who said the business of America is business? Somebody before Roosevelt, I think, to keep the prices high. And so what if people starved? They were playing with the law of supply and demand. Cut down the supply, raise the demand, the price goes up. This is contemporaneous. And World War II, this week, I looked it up. The first place I went was, what was this week in World War II history? Bloody stuff going on that sounds more like the Vietnam War than World War II. And you think of, Grandpa fighting the Nazis. No, it was a whole other thing. There was a death march that week. It was absolutely horrendous. So these are hypocritical on the level of being incredibly cynical, and implanted this concept that we still live with today, what we're supposed to have. Now, this has been the inspiration for numerous parodies. This is my version of Screen and Screen, by the way, while I plan to learn video editing. I'm using this simplistic two-camera method. That's not very simplistic. So this the hillbilly version, the redneck version. They're serving Kentucky Fried Chicken. The big bucket cost $6 maybe. And everyone everyone in the family is represented. They're very happy. And Rockwell, a worried man. He's a worried man. Then we have the 1970s version with all kinds of people. This I can get. I can. Doesn't this? Maybe it's just me. Maybe I'm just a child of the 70s. And by the way, I grew up in the era when Black people had afros, and the prevailing slogan was "Black is beautiful." I'm one of those "Black is beautiful" people, and I say, let the afro happen. Grow it in, have a good time. This looks a lot to me. It looks a lot more fun. Oh, this could be fun too. But this is like all looking real stuffy compared to this 1970s version. Of course, Mad Magazine had at it. This is kind of when was this one? Do we have the date here? December. Oh, God, it's too blurry. I had to blow this up from like a 300 pixel image. But this is kind of looking like the absolutely perverse punk rock version. And this was the phenomenal Mad Magazine, where the joke of Mad Magazine was that it was for basically for like nerds and losers who could see through it all. Alfred E. Newman, the little kid with his ears poking out of his head, clearly not one of the cool kids, but he always seemed cool to me. Tells where I'm coming from. So it's not like the hideousness of this has not gone unnoticed. And look, I mean, from a technical standpoint, I don't know if Rockwell used oils or watercolors, but it is magnificent. The folds and the fabric and his ability to illustrate hands. There's really two ways you could tell a masterful artist. One of them is how they depict the folds in fabric, and the second is how they depict the human hand. It would seem to me that if you want to be a really good artist, master the hand and master folds and fabric, and all the rest will flow naturally. Faces, seem to be pretty easy. I mean, not that I can do it, but comparatively speaking, the hand is very. Even AI it puts like 6 fingers and turns them around. And you have like two left hands at the same time, and all of that. All right, let's. I hope you're finding this entertaining, and I will continue to entertain you tomorrow with planning an edition of Planet Waves Sunday. I feel like my calling on holidays is to keep people company who do not otherwise have company. So let's look at this. This is, again, freedom from want. Did I tell you the other one? Hold on. Do I even have freedom from fear? I thought I printed freedom from fear. Okay. Freedom from fear is a mother and father putting 2 children to bed. Again, during World War II. Again, we wonder, maybe the guy seems a little bit old to serve. Why isn't this guy serving? Average age, I think, was somewhere between 23 and 25. A lot of families on this non-existent Thanksgiving that happened in March had like 6 uncles serving in World War II. It was not happy times. It's not happy times. So this comes out, as mentioned, on March 6th, 1843. I do not know the 1943. I do not know the publication schedule of the Saturday Evening Post. I assume it came out in the evening because that was the name, and maybe if you knew somebody, you could get it in the morning. But it takes place the day of the Pisces new moon. And the Pisces new moon happened a little bit earlier that day, conjunct the asteroid Pallas Athene. It's a political statement. And assuming a 6 o'clock chart, just because, we wind up with a lot here in this zone of projection. This is in effect a projection. And I imagine that, literate people read magazines like the Saturday Evening Post. One of the things that McLuhan says is that people who are literate are the most susceptible to propaganda. Now, that was in that time. That was before things like the World Wide Web and artificial intelligence and things like that. But I've taken that under account. I mean, you wonder why so many people fell for the 2020 scam who had PhDs. Well, PhDs will be well read, whatever field they're in. They will have read a lot of books. You're going to go to their house, they're going to have a big bookshelf, and they probably read half of them. And it was the literate class that really fell for 2020 more than anyone else. It was the people who were, less educated who did not fall for it so much. There's exceptions. I mean, guys like Andy Kaufman saw through it right away. This guy's got, a lot of degrees, but mostly the educated class fell for it. They fell for it. Okay, so what else going on here? We have this nice homey Jupiter in Cancer, trine the new moon. It's very, it's very, very friendly. It's a pretty much accurate picture of this chart. And, Saturn, the government, looking down. The government, meaning in Gemini, there's your governance structure, the man and the woman, because Gemini would imply a dyadic pair of some kind. Another famous cameo of Saturn and Gemini was when the World Trade Center got knocked down. Saturn was in Gemini. Saturn structure Gemini twin. Here we have the twin structure of the extended family, the patriarch and the matriarch, and all of that. And I don't know quite what to make of Uranus, but well, if you have an idea what Uranus is doing up there, maybe you can tell me. So let's. And I'm not going to drill deep into this chart, but I think that Pisces new moon says quite a bit. We're still in the early baby boomer era of Pluto in Leo. But Pluto in Leo, that's the sigil of the immortal baby boomer, and it begins before World War II. Pluto go nice and slow in Leo back then. And then let's take a look at Rockwell's chart. And this is a time chart. I have not drilled into the time of the source of this data. Rockwell born in 1894, late in the 19th century, 4 years after the house I'm sitting in was built. And Rockwell is born with this conjunction that defines that whole late 19th century era. Many prominent people were born in 1894, 1895, 1896. If you look up those births, is a very interesting cohort of people born in that little mini subgeneration of 1894, 5, 6. And what's going on here is that Neptune and Pluto are in a conjunction, again in Gemini, one of the most interesting signs of the lot. And this Hitler's born around this time. I could easily pull up a list of everyone born with the conjunction of Neptune and Pluto, but it is like illusion. It's like illusion Neptune on steroids. The steroids being Neptune. At Pluto, right? Pluto is your hormonal drive, and Neptune is the illusion, and so it's really a lot of illusions, and it also creates some phenomenal visionaries. Let me quickly check the birth date of Buckminster Fuller. Bucky Fuller, 1895. So, if I don't know if you know who Buckminster Fuller is, really one of the great minds to ever pass through modern civilization. Buckminster Fuller solved all the problems we did not even know we have. He's born with this Neptune-Pluto conjunction, so it's really one of these profoundly enigmatic things, and it's a little frightening. It's a little creepy. It's got the possibility to make you believe things that are not true. And Fuller tried to get us to believe things that he knew were true that nobody else believed were true. So for Bucky, he had a little bit of the opposite problem and was one of the very few older people who was trusted in the 1960s. There's maybe you've heard the expression, don't trust anyone over 30 from the 1960s. I haven't looked up who actually coined that phrase, but the other part of it was don't trust anyone over 30 except for Bucky Fuller. Good advice, right? I don't know. There's pretty smart people over 30, and frankly, you have to live a while to get some experience. But in any event, I promise we'll do the chart of Buckminster Fuller soon, and we'll do that along with my other favorite Cancerian inventor, which is McLuhan, and then I have a third one in that group. All of them luminaries, and all of them examples of great inventors who were not Aquarians. There's this concept that, Edison and people like this, Aquarians make great inventors. But I have also found that Cancerian, particularly Cancerian men, make great inventors. They have a very strong streak of the feminine, which means the potential to have their whole brain working. And that's the key, is to have your whole brain working. All the problems we have in the universe, meaning the Earth, largely are problems of either one side of the brain or the other emphasized, or the two sides of the brain at war. Okay, I think that's all I've got for you today. I will end by saying that I was taught the four freedoms in elementary school. Now, my elementary school teacher was probably born in, I'm going to guess, 1910, Mrs. Fennelly. And so she was teaching Roosevelt stuff. And what they didn't say was that the four freedoms are ridiculous and you'd be teaching the Bill of Rights. And they don't include, for example, the Fourth Amendment, the freedom from having your home and searched and your papers seized, by the government without a specific warrant saying what exactly they're looking for and presumably why. Or maybe that will be connected to a criminal indictment. But the four freedoms are themselves a cover-up, and it is noteworthy that there is no freedom of abundance. That freedom from want would also mean the freedom to have abundance. Two chickens in every pot, Roosevelt said. This works real good for families like this, and we might make up a little story about this, which is who are these people? I read, and like how did they make their money? And I hope that your Thanksgiving, if you wanted to, looks more like this, or more like this, or especially more like this. Ooh, yeah. All right. This is the Thanksgiving that I want to be at. All right, let's take this camera off. Chart cam. Okay, so monthly horoscope, looking at that next week, and horoscope's going to be on a little bit of a flaky schedule potentially as I finish the annual. Normally, last year I had all the horoscopes written out to the end of the year. I was not able to do that this year between moving and redesigning the website and the challenging mid-year edition, but I'll have something for you, and at the very least you're going to hear from me every week. If you're a subscriber, thank you for understanding. And if you're a customer of Inner Light, Inner Peace, thank you very much. It's going to be a magnificent annual edition. As usual, we're going to put the 1, 2, and 3 signed packages on sale a little bit later. I'm not making any real changes till after Mercury is direct. Look for that. Get onto the Planet Wave Substack if you want to hear from me regularly. Thank you for liking and upvoting. We're creeping up toward 5,000 subscribers, and we've cleared the 900 video mark. Can you believe I've done this 900 times? I can barely believe that. I've only written 2,000 horoscopes, and I've done 900 videos. I don't feel very good at it, but whatever. Anyway, thanks for tuning in. Have the best holiday that you can have. If you're feeling blue, email me. I'm going to be home working on the annual edition on Thursday. efc@planetwaves.net. And that's all I have to say for this particular moment. Lots of love, and bye for now.